Welcome to Back to Back with your host, Chris Ellison. On Back to Back, we feature a lineup of Christian music, and most of it is Canadian. We love Canada, and we love our Canadian artists. We want to showcase their music on this show. We'll feature reviews, artist interviews, and we'll play some of their songs. So stay tuned, and thanks for joining us on Back to Back.
Back to back, back to back, stronger back to back.
Well, right now we're going to feature Canadian Christian artist Elenee. She's a multi-award-winning Canadian Christian artist, singer, songwriter, producer, and her music blends a gospel tradition with a warm, encouraging tone. She's got roots in the Greek community and Métis heritage, and she brings a unique cultural diversity to her artistry. She's got a brand new album coming out. It's releasing in 2024, and it features a vibrant mix of pop, contemporary, and jazz influences. She's on the show with us right now. We're going to talk about what she's been involved with and where she's heading and how to reach her. Her name is Elenee, and welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
We're really glad to have you here. We were talking a few minutes ago, and I was letting you know that I hear your name out there attached to various projects and collaborations and the work that you're doing. And so we're really glad to provide exposure to you as an artist and who you are and the various parts of you and your writing style. And we'll talk about all of these things so that people who may not have heard you across Canada might be able to have that opportunity to get to know you, and not just your music, but a little bit of behind the scenes, what makes you up, your writing style and other things. So we're really glad to have this conversation.
Cool. Excited to dive in.
Well, why don't you tell us first, just kind of give us an idea about your journey into music and how you discovered your passion for Christian music in particular.
Chris, it really started from as a young child. I can't really say that there was this real definitive moment for me where I was like, yes, this is what I'm going to do. It's part of sort of my DNA, maybe. I guess there's a couple different things that led to where I am today. For starters, I grew up in a very musical home. My mom, definitely made sure my sister and I listened to all kinds of different music growing up, like ABBA, Bee Gees, all the good, like classic, amazing genres, and artists. And then of course my grandparents on my dad's side actually lived in our basement for most of my childhood, and they were in a band. So my grandmother played the accordion and my grandfather used to play his 12-string guitar and yodel. It sounds crazy, but I mean, it makes up who I am, so I can't just ignore that. My dad was also really into music. And so it just kind of felt like, okay, who I am in some way or another is going to be somewhat musical as an adult. I grew up going to church with my mom and my grandparents and loved, the worship. And we had an amazing worship team when I was growing up. Like we were like, I think ahead. We had the bongos, we had the drum, like the big drum cage or the drum kit, the synth and the piano. Like we had it all. The background singers. It just felt like I was really exposed to some good worship music growing up as well. Like, all the Darlene Check, give it to me, all the records. So that just kind of ingrained into me. It's who I am. But I really have been writing songs, and I've been recording piano for like ever. I used to be really, really obnoxious on my parents' upright piano that we had in our living room. And then one day my parents really were just fed up. They got me a Yamaha like weighted 88 key keyboard, I guess, and they put it in my room, and it had a volume control button. That was absolutely crucial to everybody's sanity. So they put it in my room, and I would just spend a lot of time in that room. I won't go into like details right now. I'm sure there's going to be some follow-up with this later, but it was very much like therapeutic for me and coping through anger and stuff like that. So I would record these little piano riffs, and then I would read or sing my poem along to it. I'd write these poems. And so that really is when my artist journey really started. I was probably about 8 or 9. And then it was like songs about my dog, songs about boys or friends and betrayal. Like, it was all these things. But when I came back to the Lord, I kind of walked away for a season, and I came back as a teenager, I guess, a little later in my teens. I was just reminded of the calling that the Lord had on my life. And I just started to take that energy I was putting into like breakup songs. And I really just started to use it for the work that God's doing in my life, my testimony. So it just all felt very natural. It never felt like it was this real big decision at any point. It's just who I am.
It's who you are. That's really interesting when you talk about back in the days when it's just you and your piano and you're just trying to gel with the concept of putting songs to music in a way that makes sense to you and as a form of expression about what you want to say. Some people write when they're angry or sad or depressed, and some people write when they're feeling good and they're reflecting on things. Some people are in the moment. Other people are kind of looking around and, so everybody's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've got a Greek and Métis heritage background. Does that and has it affected or influenced your music or songwriting?
The Greek part of me is just passionate. Like my people are passionate about everything. So I think and we use our hands a lot. So naturally it felt like.
Me too.
In a way, yeah. Are you Greek? Are you French?
I'm not. Maybe I should look into that history. Maybe I am. My wife talks about it all the time.
Yeah, it's a thing. So I don't know if that really I just think it makes me more passionate. That's really all I can allude to in the sense of the Greek side. However, in my Métis heritage, in a roundabout way, I find that trauma and generational cycles and abuse are very prevalent in my family. Like my dad passed away in 2020 of alcoholism. So I mean I've lived a life of trauma and generational cycles of abuse. And I think that really played a huge role in just, like I had already sort of alluded to, like me being in my piano or me in my room with my piano and just using that space to cope and to take myself, out of the current situation I was in and sort of into this dimension of joy and happiness and things were just going to be okay, So, I mean, in a way, I think both sides have put a lot of, expression into who I am as a person. I don't know if that even makes sense. But I would say that the Métis side of me, the indigenous side of me really feels the pressure to heal. And this is my way of healing. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we usually have various, themes or messages we try to convey through our music. Mm-hmm. Do you find that historically or culturally, you would bring some of those elements, your Greek side, your Métis side, and the roads that you and your family have walked, does it interpret into the types of themes or messages you choose to convey through your music? And how do you ensure that these come through your songs?
It really is so unintentional, but authentic. I am what they would call an empath. I can go through a whole, and all of this, but I go through a whole therapy session with you guys where I educate the listeners on why I'm an empath, but I'm a huge feeler. And I think when I go through things and when other people go through things that I'm privy to, I find myself writing a lot more of the songs of grief, of trauma, healing, just overall hopeful, but sort of sad.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear about different people's writing style. Recording artist Matthew Good, he's been suffering from depression for years, and he said at a concert once, he'll actually go off his medication for a while so that he can get into that intense spot so he can write words that that I guess resonate with people. I
love Matthew Good. That makes sense.
Yeah. I've never seen him in concert, but I hear he's amazing in the stories he tells, and so that's interesting. Whereas other people use, they write in a positive way about, good, happy things, and other people are more dark, and everybody's different. I find it interesting. So in terms of, and thanks for sharing some of that information about how you kind of come to a song. Do you come to a song when say by the time you begin and finish the song, and there's many different parts to that, the writing, the recording, the performing, and we'll talk about that too. I want to talk about that as well. But how people will get to a song. Do you come up with words first, or do you write the music and adapt words to that?
Like every song really is very different. They all take on a different journey, and it really will depend on where I'm at emotionally. Like going back to that thing about being an empath, like when I was, folding laundry in that one situation, it was very much words. It was more reflecting on that scripture and just kind of figuring out like how can I sing this scripture over my friend and sort of make it a prayer, but also like a one-sided prayer, because a lot of times, prayers, I feel like we mumble jumble our words to make it like we want to bring this beautiful prayer to the Lord, and he is listening to everything. He knows if we just need to say like help or, cry without saying anything, like he's right there. And so this song is literally about that. And it was words and melody at the same time. Some songs I'll have, and I have like hundreds of notes or voice notes, sorry, on my phone that it's just like, pick up my phone. It's like, do,
Yeah.
like, cool. I'll come back to that later. Do I ever come back to it? Probably not. But there's that. And then I've got, probably equal amount, sorry, of notes on my phone of just like what I would consider poems, really, because they don't have a melodic structure. But it's hard for me to pick one or the other. I'm a melody writer, so when I'm in a co-write and in a room with other people, I generally will shy away. If there's a stronger lyricist in there, I'll just like let them do their thing, kind of plug in when I need to, but I'm there for melody, and I'll sit there and just like kind of take what we're writing about and make it match, make the sound of the song and the production sort of match the messaging of the words. That's where I like to do my thing and thrive. But yeah, really depends on the day, the song, the way the wind's blowing.
Yes. For me, it's all about the music first. I write as well. I can't write a bunch of lyrics and then write a song with that. I've got to start with the music. And in fact, what I found interesting over the last couple of years is how my brain works. I hear music. I don't hear words. I have to focus. My wife will be like, "Oh, that was a great line." I'll be like, "Bass line? No, she'll say, no, the words." And so I find that I'm focused in this, and I have to actually have to try to focus. And I guess it's like that with writing lyrics as well. I've gotten pretty good at it after years, but I find that my focus is the music. I wonder you ever thought of that before? Like when you hear music on the radio, do you listen along to the words, or do you listen to the music first?
Huh.
It's a good question, eh? Most people don't even think about that. Neither I didn't.
I can compare it maybe to a movie. Like, for example, the movie that just came out, Twisters. I love good.
Just thought.
I mean, I like the OG Twisters too, but like I love a good natural disaster movie. Don't judge me, you guys. But I watched it the first time for the impression. Like I watched it because I was like, everybody's talking about it. I want to experience the movie. So I watched it the first time for the experience. The second time I was digging into watching for the things that I probably missed, which was like some plot twists and, things people said that really made a huge deal in the movie that I kind of missed, And so maybe in terms of a song, I feel like I listen to it for the impression overall. Like if I hear a song on the radio or something that is like peaking, I really want to like just listen to it. Like whether it's, it's kind of the whole thing. And a really good song for me has great lyrics, and the musicality of it really matches and enhances the lyrics. So in a good song, I'm like listening to it all and feeling it. I'm a feeler. And then I'll Shazam it and then I'll listen to it again and again and again and again. And then I'll sort of dissect it. I'll pick out the bass line and be like, wow, I love that they used this instrument in there. That's so cool. Or, or I'll be like, that line is wild. It's like, oh, what does that even mean? That's so cool. It's like metaphor, So it's really like, I kind of listen for it all, but first and foremost, I really like that feeling of like the first time of hearing something and then, knowing how it made you feel in that moment. Like you only experience that once with any song. So I really like to lean into that.
Okay, you just mentioned Shazam it. Now, I don't know how old you are, but were you talking oh, like it was a kids show years ago,
Oh yeah,
a superhero that
that's
I was
right.
like 5 years old when it was on. I
Yeah.
didn't think you would even know what that Shazam.
Well, you know what Shazam is, right? Or do you not? So
Oh,
Shazam.
you got to tell me because I only know
Oh,
that the kids show when you're of a superhero. That
okay,
was
very different.
horribly produced, that but was awesome because you're six and you don't notice.
Yeah, you don't care. You're just there like to watch cartoons and or whatever, watch TV. So
Yeah.
Shazam is an app. I feel like it's made by Apple because it takes you to Apple Music. And so basically, if there's a song playing, like even faintly in the background, you put the Shazam up, and it listens to the song and then it tells you what song it is, and then it'll take you right to the
Okay.
song. Yeah, it's cool.
Okay.
I do it all the time in like public spaces because you know what, like you just don't know what song's playing, so it's great. And you can
Yeah.
hear it, like it'll pick it up like with a lot of background noise. It's so great.
And
Yeah,
I've heard of that app. I just haven't heard what it was called. So
okay.
so I'll have to check that out, and you'll have to go check out old YouTube videos of Shazam. It was my
Yes.
favorite superhero. That yeah, it's hilarious to look at now. How about in the Christian music industry versus, say, the secular Christian music industry?
Mhm.
In Canada, I mean, you've won awards and you've had people recognize you for your talents and for who you are. And it'll be exciting to see, how you progress and where you go with this. But in Canada, it's a little bit more of a challenge than in, say, the US or in the secular music industry, the non-Christian music industry. How do you find it as an artist in the Christian music industry in Canada? Some of the barriers, some of the challenges, or some of the successes.
Well, I have maybe a kind of an unpopular opinion about that. I find, and whether I'm right or wrong about this, I don't know, but in the US market, you are a very small fish in a very big pond. I mean, like, as a writer, if you look at the CCLI Top 100 list of writers, they're all the same. Like, for the most part, they're all the same people.
Yeah.
Like, your likelihood of getting your foot in the door and like getting in there and doing the things, it's a lot less, I guess, than what people maybe think, especially if you're a woman. I don't even hate to, like, I hate to be that person, but like, if you look at the demographics specifically of the people who are writing for the CCLI Top 100, like, we're not looking at a lot of female representation. It is what it is.
Mhm.
In Canada, because in some ways the path hasn't necessarily been forged a specific way. In the US, like, there's kind of I want to say almost like a pattern of events you do, or like it's almost like a formula to get into a certain market. In Canada, it kind of looks different everywhere for every person, whether it's secular or Christian, you know. I think that almost is to our benefit in a way because we can kind of do our own thing,
Yeah.
and it's just, I guess at the end of the day, it regardless of whether you're Canada, US, secular, Christian, all of this costs a lot of money, and you can't really escape that. And the other side of it is to get signed by a label. And I mean, as you probably know, labels really aren't all they're cracked up to be, because you lose that creative freedom, and you're put under a lot of pressure to create, and you're basically like, I don't even know if they're even advancing for albums the way that they used to. So like, I don't even know if it's worth it in that sense either. But all I know is that if you do want to do music, whether it's, like I said, in any of the Christian, secular, Canada, US, like, you're just spending a lot of money, and the more money that you have to spend, the more your name is going to get out there. And that's just kind of the sad reality. Um, I just think in the US it's a little harder because you're competing with a lot of big fishes in this giant pond.
Mhm.
Whereas in Canada, I mean, there's the CanCon regulations. So if you're bringing a Canadian content song to radio, you're automatically kind of, I don't want to say automatically put in the roster, but you automatically get like a
Yeah.
special set of ears on your song, because they're like, oh, this meets our quota for CanCon, and we need to have more stuff out there, and blah blah blah. Like, you have that, to your advantage. But I don't know. It's
You're
hard
almost like a bigger
to.
fish in a small, or a small, yeah, bigger fish in a
Yeah.
smaller pond. as
Kind
opposed to
of.
your example of a small fish in a big pond. I see there's opportunity. We're at
Yeah.
this place, however we got here, isn't that important. But I think I like your perspective on there are, if depending on how you look at it, there's some opportunities out there and some grassroots opportunities. And I think me and a number of my colleagues in the industry, leaders, are talking about that. How do we reshape it? How do we shape it the way we want?
Yeah.
And so I think there's opportunity. So I kind of like your perspective on that.
Well, it's hard when you're trying to do it. It's hard to really sit in that negative mindset because if I, tell myself every day, like, I'm never going to make it, this isn't worth it, but it's just like, it's like expensive hobby, like I'm really not doing anything for myself at that point. So I'm treating what I'm doing as a really exciting ministry. It's a business. It's not an expensive hobby. It's a business with an investment and a return on investment. If you're really playing the cards right, I don't know if you should say that about Christian music, but if you're putting your eggs in the right baskets.
I get it.
And, I think at the end of the day, though, like, I hate to say this, but people in any demographic want a relationship of sorts with that artist. So for myself, for better or worse, like I've had to up my game on social media. I've had to like up my game on responding to DMs and getting out there and, specifically thanking radio stations and that to me is just part of the job for the business that I'm creating. You know what I mean? Like if I owned a clothing store, there's going to be days where I'm like unpackaging boxes of clothes and like ironing them and putting them on hangers. It's not the glamorous excitement of like trying on and doing the, woo. It's just part of the job. And so doing what I can to form that relationship with listeners and radio stations and those who, want to be involved in my music journey, like that's amazing. And I've seen the fruit of that full circle because in February, March, I did a Kickstarter for this album I have coming out just to get it out of post-production. And I was able to raise like more than I was asking for in 30 days or less. So for me, it was like, okay, it's paying off to see the people connecting with the music, connecting with the artist, wanting to support. And it's wild, but it takes that effort. And sometimes like it's way more work than what we sign up for, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your new album. You've got a new album coming out, and you've got some interesting things happening on that. And we've also got some collaborations you've been involved with. Kay Anthony was somebody recently you collaborated with, and look forward to hearing about that. But tell us about your album and what people can expect.
Oh man, I'm so excited for this album. It has been in the works for a very long time. And like lots of changes along the way. I was originally going to do like a waterfall release, which means releasing one song of the album every 4 to 6 weeks. In a way, I kind of ended up doing that without really wanting to, I guess. But then in another way, I'm really not because there's still 4 unreleased tracks coming out on the album. So the album is 8 songs. It's pretty gut punching and also absolutely enriching at the same time. I don't even know if that makes sense, but it does. It does for me.
Enrichingly gut punching. There's
Yeah.
a quote for you.
There you go. Clip it. I was trying to figure out I think I was in an interview and somebody was like, explain the album. And I was like, well, it's hard because there's a lot of genre crossover. Like it's really not cohesive in the sense that the messages are necessarily the same. Like, how when you listen to an album top down, it's kind of cool how the songs sort of go into each other in a sort of thematic way. This album is not that. And I didn't necessarily do that on purpose. But for the season I was in when I was writing these songs, they all felt like they went together, even though they don't. And let me explain kind of how that works. So when I was writing these songs, it was very much like I was just going through it. I was going through a season. It was like November, December. I chronically have the worst type of seasonal depression. I'm already kind of feeling it right now, but it's just like I was just feeling it. And so I look back on the songs and I listen to the tracks top to bottom, And I think the best way for me to describe this album is sort of a coming of age, in the sense that I feel like I've kind of grabbed a hold of my independence as a producer and the sounds that I want to hear from myself. Prior to this, I felt like I was putting myself in a box where I was trying to make like kind of like church music and songs that could be sung during church. And I hated being there, but I felt like that was the only way for me to get out there. False, 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 false. Artists, if you're listening, don't put yourself in a box. Just make the music that God has put in your heart and make it to the best of your abilities. Let me just say that. Anyways,
That's
so
good advice. I'm glad you said that.
yeah, it's just like, yeah, there's enough people doing the same thing. Don't do that, because like that makes your fish that you want to be, this big fish in a littler pond. It makes you a small fish in a big pond. Just do the
Yeah.
things. Anyways, I find that this album offers that differentiation in style and sound. Like what people are used to from me is just, it's not there, which is cool. But at the other side of that, like musicalness aside, I find that the messages from every song are very much like lessons that I'm learning and lessons that I've learned. So they all kind of offer this like level of prayers I've prayed, demons I've fought, devil I've yelled at, and it's amazingly enriching. That's the enriching part, is you can listen to it top down and say like, okay, Elenee's been through some stuff and she's, you know, kind of in the throes of it in this album. But on the other side of it, like I'm just like, I've done it. I've been there. I'm walking with you right now through it as you're listening to the song. You know, I'm with you. So I hope that people can feel that as they listen to it. But yeah, it's cool.
Some of the collaborations you've been involved with lately, tell us about those. I believe Keegan, you were in touch and doing something with him. And how does that affect your writing style when you're working with other people?
Oh man. Like it is so good, especially when you find someone or some people that you really connect with as people, and then you're able to embody that in a write. So Kagan's amazing. He is like one of the craziest, like underrated producers ever. And I wish for people to know more about Kagan. Like he's written some of the best songs I've ever heard, like lyrically, and he produces them, which is like it's so cool to hear what he does. So he contacted me. I had been following him forever, and he contacted me. It was like, I want to write a song with you. I was like, cool. Sent me the concept for Provider, and I was like, this song's insane. Immediately, I feel like the song's done, but like, let's see what we can do for a second verse and a bridge. So we did that, and it's just amazing. It's one of the only songs, like true story, that I can listen to still right now, over and over and over again, and I don't get tired of it. My own stuff, like I've been over my own stuff for months. Like if I have to hear it again, I'm just like,
Yeah, yeah.
but this song Provider with Kagan, like I can just listen to it on repeat. It's such an uplifting song. The theme of it is gratitude, and I just don't feel like I write enough of those types of songs because I'm just like deep in the throes of depression, you know. But it's good. I am planning to, this is kind of on the DL, but you're hearing it here first at Back to Back. I am wanting to release like a deluxe version of my album coming out, probably in the new year, and I have Kay Anthony on one of the tracks that's already out right now. So that's all I'm gonna say. The song's already been released, but I really want Kay Anthony to throw some like flavor on just the song, like the verse. I think I have them, and then the choruses and bridge. So it's exciting. Like I think it's going to be so cool. And then on the album, I have another collaboration, which is also kind of on the DL, but you're hearing it here first. This is an exclusive.
Back to back exclusive.
Yeah.
Oh, we're honored.
On my album, I have a collaboration with an incredible worship leader and artist out of California. Her name is May Angelus. You guys, she's amazing. She most recently has been working with Matt Redman, but she's just like, she's an angel walking among us. Her heart for the Lord is like, I don't even know. It's massive. And just her love and her smile. She's the best. So I met her at GMA conference in Nashville called Immerse. And she was the winner that year of, I think it was like female vocalist and female artist songwriter. So I won the songwriter the next year, but it was cool to get to like meet her and connect with her, and she was amazing. So I'm super excited to get to have her featured on one of the songs in on the album. You guys are gonna love this song. It is so good. Written with Charity Gale and Ryan Kennedy, her husband. It's gonna be a good one. So I'm excited, you guys. The album is gonna be amazing.
How about touring? Do you have an opportunity to perform and to go on the road and play at different locations?
Yeah. Well, maybe this is where we can really dig into the music scene that is Canada. It is really challenging to plan any kind of tour because, well, I looked at a statistic from, I want to say 2020. I think it was 2020. And it said that approximately 48% of Canadians identify as Christians. I don't know how accurate that is. And I also don't know how devoted those people are. I also don't know if any of those people are interested in going to a Christian music concert. And so to plan a tour, it's really hard to wrap my head around like getting people to show up,
Yeah.
especially when I don't have a full project out. So I am hoping to do like sort of a mini tour across Canada, like in smaller venues and just kind of like getting my name out there in the spring. Here's
Okay.
hoping. It really is going to depend on the performance of the album and I guess overall like the cost. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that's in my interviews with a variety of people. I mean, that seems to be something that is a challenge to people. I mean, Canada's a big place.
mhm.
Churches don't offer people to come in and play like they used to. 20, 30 years ago, that's part of what you did. You'd come out with an album,
Mhm.
you would find your local Christian bookstores, and there was probably a few of them in your city. They would sell them. You would get on radio um, airplay, and then you would play at different Christian churches who would have you in. Well, all of that's gone.
Yeah, we don't even have one Christian bookstore in my city now of like 35,000 people. That's
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah. I've got my CDs sold in a couple of places in London here, and one of them I went to go meet with the owner and get my check. He says, "Chris, I hate to say it, two people stole your CDs."
Oh,
Well, I didn't know whether to be excited about it or
yeah,
disappointed. If
that's fair.
someone's going to steal my CD, it's kind of ironic. I kind of feel like, wow, I'm stealable.
Oh my
Some
God.
people wanted my album, but
I love
and I
that.
pray that God would bless that person. But it's a strange place right now, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it is weird.
And so one thing we're trying to do is connect with churches, find out from pastors what would make them want to host an event for Christian artists. Because what's happening is a lot of artists like yourself have just fallen away because like of writing music and being in the Christian music industry. No places to play, radio won't play you, or it's hard because that can be kind of a narrow window of how you fit in each station, and each of them are different. But trying to find ways, especially for pastors, to want to bring you in to let them play and support it and advertise it.
Yeah.
So we're still trying to figure out what that big question mark is that will help pastors who are doing a good job, and we're not criticizing them, who are focused on their church and what's happening inside. And maybe they've had bad experiences. I mean, that's what I've heard, but I don't think that's enough to say, well, we're never going to do it again. I think it's a grassroots movement right now where people aren't really even thinking about it, but we've got to give them a reason to want to, and a platform to do it. And so
Yeah,
you're in a unique situation to be able to grassroots that and help shape what Canada's going to be in the next few years.
I hope so. And I do want to say this, like I think, and I can only speak maybe for a few churches that I've talked to, but I think at the end of the day, pastors are wanting to bring people in that are like, I just want to say maybe an example to their congregation in a sense of like, what does your lifestyle look like? life that's separate, like the things that we're called to do as Christians. And I feel like there are, and maybe not necessarily in Canada, but I know like in the States, there's a lot of Christians that like kind of live double lives. And it's hard as a pastor to want to bring someone in who is just not a God honoring person outside of the music that they make. Does that make sense? And I
Yeah.
don't want to sound like real ultra spiritual here, but I just think like as artists, we it's a blessing and a huge privilege to get to play in someone's church. But at the end of the day, like the performance aspect of that is very small. We're
Mhm.
also spending time with their congregation, and we're also like taking on those stories and hearing about the impact their music has had. And the pastors need to trust that we're going to come in and actually be like God-fearing people
Yeah.
in their churches. So I don't know if that really affects like I don't know if that affects Canada. I know for in the point of the US market, I have friends who are pastors and friends who do music in the States, and it's like we know that you're up getting slammed or getting high, like you need to get high to do a concert, like we
Yeah.
don't want that in our church. And we don't want our people being privy to that. And I get that. I totally fully support that.
Sure.
But we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yes.
Like
I
we have to
agree.
really and do the effort as artists and writers and all those things to really like live that life that people aspire to live as Christians. Not putting yourself on a pedestal, but living a consecrated life. Because when you're doing ministry in a public platform at that, you have to be like in prayer. You have to be, full of the word. It's just like you're getting hit on all sides from the enemy 24/7. He doesn't
Yeah.
want your message going out there. And so you have to be able to sustain that lifestyle. And most people just aren't in the music industry, seriously.
So
So
maybe that's the why that we were talking about. A pastor would want to bring someone in. Maybe
I think,
what's needed is a vetting system, a way I don't know, some kind of entity with a mission statement, a
mhm,
value statement that exemplifies what churches and pastors would want.
mhm.
That you could basically have a seal of approval that you cover the bases and your lifestyle um, supports that. So I don't
Mhm.
know. It's good conversations like this that kind of leads us to that why for
Yeah.
pastors to bring someone like yourself into their church.
And I think
It's
that organizations like Compassion Canada, I think that they work with they're really specific about who they work with and who they represent and who represents them.
yeah.
So that vetting process is cool to have like, okay, I'm here with Compassion Canada or whatever. I say Compassion Canada, but there's other entities out there. We just need to, maybe streamline that. I don't know. It's just an idea and a thought, whether it means anything. I
These
don't
are
know.
important conversations to have.
Yeah.
So I think that that's really important. So, we really appreciate you spending some time with us because it does create conversations and ideas. And, so if people want to follow you so
Mhm.
that they can, when you are going to be in the city performing, uh, how can they reach you? How can they follow you?
Well, you can find me pretty much anywhere. Like all social media, my handles are the same across the board. It's Elenee M Young. And yeah, you can find me there. That's really like just the easiest way to get a hold of me. You can email me if you want, like if you are needing anything, like if you want a tour date or anything, hello@elenee.ca. My website, elenee.ca. It's easy, easy peasy. Of course, if you know how to spell my name, then it's not.
Yeah. Okay.
Elenee. Can't miss it. And yeah, make sure like if you're listening, reach out to your local Christian radio station or if you have one that you get broadcasted from and request my songs because like you guys, that means the world to us. Like it's the little things in Canada and the Christian music sector where it's like, man, there's people that are choosing my song or my music above like the huge, Forrest Franks and the Josiah Queens and all the people that are doing music like, either independently or through labels, but that are just like massively popular. If you want to hear my songs and you're requesting it, that does such a huge
Sure it does.
yeah, it's just so impactful for me and then for other independents that you want to hear their music. So keep
Yeah.
that up and support. That's
We
great.
need to some more support our Canadian artists.
Yeah.
We need to reach out to the radio stations and even our pastors to say, we want more of this. I think that we as Canadians and as songwriters and our artists, that we want ideally for Canada to be full of Canadian content, not only US content. Not only for who was it recently told me that, you don't get well known in Canada until you leave Canada and you join the US industry in order to come back, and then all of a sudden you're well known.
It's credibility.
It shouldn't be that way.
It's like people don't think that like the Canadian industry is credible. So when you get street creds in Nashville, all of a sudden you're like worth so much more in Canada, because like, oh my gosh, you're in Nashville, you're doing like, it's crazy to me, because I'm like, we have some incredible artists that like are just Canadian. They didn't have to move or, go do their thing in the US market. Like they're just good and Canadian, but like they're not that credible because they haven't like made it in the eyes of the powers that be back in Nashville, I guess. I don't know. It's dumb.
Yeah. What did Jesus say? A prophet is not accepted in his hometown or her hometown. But it wasn't until he went away and made, positive waves that then people looked at him differently.
I will say this though, my community, like I'm located in Lloydminster, Saskatchewan / Alberta. My community has been ridiculously supportive. Like, I don't give them enough credit. It's so crazy to me that, because here's the thing, I'm also a restaurateur. I'm a third gen restaurateur with my family. So I've been in the community my whole life in that sense. And plus I like own we own businesses, my husband and I together, and like we're out there, we're doing the things in the community. But for community members to like not be like, oh, that's Spiro's granddaughter, that's Maria's daughter, oh, that's the owner of Spiro's, like whatever, for them to be like, that girl's on the radio, that she's doing that, like it's so cool to me, because like I said, I've kind of been put in a category my whole life, and I just assumed that I would stay there, like as the restaurant lady in town, but people have like, man, I had so many locals donate to my Kickstarter campaign, which is crazy. And so many locals are like supporting me, like hearing me on Sirius XM radio. Like I had so many people locally when that went down that were sending me videos like, this is crazy. Like it's nuts to me to like experience that, because I feel like I don't give my hometown enough credit. But get out there, you guys, as artists, like your hometown will accept and support and love you. You just have to like be going out there and doing the things. They're behind you. They love to, they love a good hero story. From Lloydminster, we have, Elenee Young, who, born and raised in the border city of Canada. Like people love to hear like, oh, we take pride in that. That's our girl.
That's exciting. And as an artist, you want to be recognized for your art, your creativity, how you put stuff together. And so that's important to get that recognition.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. This was very interesting, getting to know you and talking about the industry.
Thanks so much for having me. Good to meet you. And I'm excited about everything you're doing. And I look forward to hearing the episode and more.
That's awesome. Well, we've been talking with Elenee, and she's a Christian music artist in Canada. She's coming out with her brand new album. You can follow her on her website. And we look forward to what you're going to bring forward and the ministry that you have and the effort that you take and your creativity and artistic nature. So thank you, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome. Such a good conversation.
You've been listening to Back to Back, and we thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to check us out at www.backtobackradio.ca. If you know a Canadian Christian artist that you want to hear on this program, let us know. Well, check us out next week right here on Back to Back.
Back to back, back to back, strong back to back.